It was just another crisp afternoon at the upscale Rolex boutique in downtown Chicago. Polished glass cases gleamed under the showroom lights, and well-dressed sales associates floated effortlessly from customer to customer, eyes trained for wealth. When an elderly black man walked in wearing a worn coat and scuffed shoes, heads turned, but not with welcome. A few customers smirked, others whispered. The sales staff didn't even glance his way. He was invisible. But everything changed when a sleek black SUV pulled up outside and a sharply dressed chauffeur stepped out, calling the man sir with a bow of respect. In that instant, the room fell silent, and regret filled the air like heavy perfume. Gasps were muffled. One of the salesmen, who had been laughing just moments earlier with a well-dressed couple, straightened his tie and took a step forward, suddenly all smiles. "Good afternoon, sir," he said, voice now dripping with polished charm. "Is there anything I can help you with today?" The old man didn't even blink. He stepped past him, his calm gait echoing against the marble floor, eyes scanning the display cases. The chauffeur followed a step behind, carrying a small black case that looked suspiciously like a bank document bag. Customers shifted awkwardly, suddenly aware of how they judged too quickly. The elderly man stopped in front of a rose gold Skydweller, the boutique's most expensive piece. "This one," he said softly. "My granddaughter just got accepted to law school. I think she deserves something special." The room held its breath. The same salesman hurried to unlock the case. "Excellent choice, sir. The Skydweller is a favorite among world travelers and—" The man held up a hand. "I don't need a sales pitch, son. Just ring it up. And please—" He turned to the younger associate who'd snickered when he first walked in. "Have him do the paperwork." The young associate turned red, stammering. But orders were orders. As the purchase was processed, whispers swirled behind velvet walls. Who was he? A retired celebrity? A silent partner of some billionaire firm? Maybe old money? No one could say for sure. But one thing was clear: no one would forget him. And just as the receipt printed and the watch was boxed in Rolex's signature green case, the old man leaned in slightly and said something to the associate that made his hands tremble. The young associate's face went pale as the old man whispered just 4 words. "You judged me first." The silence between them stretched long and thin. The associate swallowed hard, his earlier arrogance crumbling under the weight of shame. He handed over the receipt with trembling fingers, unable to meet the man's eyes. The elderly gentleman took the box gently, as if it were something far more valuable than just a luxury timepiece. He turned to the chauffeur, gave a slight nod, and the younger man opened the boutique door. But just before stepping out, the old man paused. He looked back at the entire room, the clients, the staff, the manager now hovering nervously near the counter. "Y'all sell watches," he said, voice low and calm. "But time's the real teacher." And with that, he walked out. No dramatic exit, no angry words, just a quiet truth that seemed to echo in every corner of the boutique. Outside, the SUV door closed softly behind him, and the vehicle rolled away into the city traffic. Inside, no one moved. Even the ticking of the showroom clocks seemed louder now. It would be hours before anyone fully returned to their usual routine. But for one young associate in particular, nothing would quite be the same again. What he didn't know, what no one in that showroom knew, was that the old man had one more stop to make that afternoon. And at that next stop, someone else would be tested. The SUV moved smoothly through the streets, windows tinted, world outside blurred. Inside, the old man sat in silence, one hand resting on the green Rolex box, the other tapping rhythmically on his cane. The chauffeur glanced in the rearview mirror. "Sir, are we heading straight to the university?" The old man shook his head. "Not yet. There's someone I haven't seen in a long time. Take me to the south side. 85th and Halsted." The chauffeur raised an eyebrow. It wasn't the kind of neighborhood most Rolex customers visited. But he said nothing. Directions were directions. As the vehicle turned off Michigan Avenue and began threading through the less polished parts of the city, memories started creeping in like ghosts through cracked doors. He hadn't been back here in nearly 40 years. Not since the night he'd left with nothing but a duffel bag, a Greyhound ticket, and a pocket full of dreams no one believed in. Back then, he'd been Jimmy. Just Jimmy. No one called him sir. The SUV slowed in front of an old, worn-down barber shop. The paint was faded, the neon sign flickered weakly, and the same rusty bell still hung above the door. He stepped out slowly, eyes scanning the block. The liquor store was still across the street. The corner bodega now had bulletproof glass. But the soul of the place? Still there. Tired. Weathered. Real. Inside the barber shop, a teenage boy was sweeping hair clippings off the floor. He looked up as the old man entered, confused for a second. Then a deep voice came from one of the chairs. "Now this can't be who I think it is." A burly man with gray at his temples stood up from behind a customer, wiping his hands on a towel. "Jimmy, is that really you?" The two men stared at each other for a long second before breaking into smiles. Not the polished, fake kind you'd see in luxury boutiques, but the raw kind that comes from a shared history. "I told you I'd come back one day," the old man said, voice almost cracking. The barber laughed, rough and warm. "Took you long enough. What, you stopped to buy the whole damn city on your way?" Jimmy smiled, holding up the Rolex box. "Just one thing. For my granddaughter. She's gonna be a lawyer." The barber whistled. "From here to law school, huh? Ain't that something?" They sat for a while, talking low and slow like time had folded in on itself. But as the sun began to dip behind the row houses, Jimmy checked his watch. Not a Rolex, just an old Timex he never stopped wearing. "I've got one more place to be tonight," he said, standing up. "After that, maybe I'll tell you the whole story." The barber gave him a look. "You mean the story?" Jimmy just smiled. The SUV rolled past the wrought iron gates of the university just as the sky turned golden. Students bustled across campus lawns, backpacks slung, voices light with ambition. Jimmy watched them with quiet pride. His granddaughter stood near the law building, nervously checking her phone. She wore a modest blazer, her hair neatly tied back, eyes sharp, just like her mother's. When she saw the SUV, her face lit up like sunrise. "Grandpa," she called, running up as he stepped out. He held out the green box. "For your first day. I know you'll be too busy to wear it, but one day you'll understand what it means." She opened the box slowly, eyes wide. "A Rolex?" she whispered, stunned. "Grandpa, this is too much." He smiled gently. "It's not about the watch, baby. It's about time. I wasted too much of it chasing what didn't matter, letting people tell me who I was and who I wasn't. You," he pointed a finger toward her heart. "You don't let anyone do that to you, ever." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. She hugged him tight, the Rolex clutched between them. From the car, the chauffeur watched silently, then turned away, giving them privacy. As they pulled out of campus later, Jimmy leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. He'd been laughed at, ignored, underestimated. But in the end, none of it mattered. He'd kept his soul. He'd returned home. He'd passed the baton. And somewhere behind them, a young woman with fire in her heart and a Rolex on her wrist was walking into a future no one could define for her.